period, I was searching for business development podcasts and came across yours. After 2 weeks of then current episodes, I went back to the beginning and I've been listening to several episodes a day.
Now that's what you call the go-to.
Well, honestly, I mean, that, I don't think even I could listen to 3 of ours a day. And
welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show.
I am. Are you there?
I am. You caught me mid-vit swallow.
Mid-vitamin swallow, yes.
That's a pile to work through.
Yep. Okay. I know. And my pile's getting bigger. I'm adding to them. Yes.
I thought, there's Judith. Nearly choked on my vit, but
yeah.
Prompt anyway.
Yes.
How are you and how's your week been?
I'm good. I have a barking dog, which is not mine. I've got all the doors and windows open. I can hear it barking. There's nothing I can do about it. Apologies.
Well, I can't hear it at all. So
it hasn't. It's not doing it at the moment.
Oh, right.
But you'll hear it in a minute. I've been cleaned this morning, as you know, and in anticipation of that, I had a very nice tidy up yesterday. I feel like a new woman. There are nice smells abounding. He was a chap called Peter, and I will have him next time as well. But I've had nil by mouth. I could eat a horse and chase the jockey, as my brother would say. I'm quite hungry. It's 1 o'clock. I haven't had anything to eat all day yet, and not since this time yesterday. So I'm very hungry.
Yeah, I think you are.
Yeah. So the fish, the cat went home on the weekend. Huge relief from me. Nice thank you sunflowers, chocolates, and cards from my nephew and his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. And yesterday we had massive rain all day after lots of sort of tiddly rain for the last week. And it was the sort of rain which would have ruined my school holidays, but gladdens my middle-aged gardener's heart because it's great news for the garden and great news for my knees. But I've noticed the tomatoes much prefer rain to tap water, and they crop like fury after rain.
I think they need water to plump up and red.
Well, no, I give them water, but they prefer the rainwater. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well,
and the last but not least for me in this section is I forgot this year that I always have August off.
You normally do, yes.
Yes, I forgot about it. Anyway, this week and next week and the following week.
I got away with it.
No, the last 3 weeks that I have here, I'm doing less. And in that spirit, I took up my coloured pencils on Tuesday and started colouring in. And I mean to do also handwriting practice, which I haven't done, I think, since I was in Bromley, which is a while ago.
Yeah, you definitely did it at some point in one of your...
Yeah, and I did, and I got very good at handwriting, but I noticed it's sliding back.
Oh, sliding back into slovenliness.
Yes, well, just sort of... I mean, I have nice handwriting, and I like my handwriting, and I don't want to see it. And actually, I noticed when I was doing the colouring that I've lost the manual dexterity for that as well. If you don't keep these things up, they go, Nicola.
There they do, yes. It's muscle memory, etc.
Tell me about your week.
Well, talking of the rain, I've got a big pile of boots on the windowsill trying to get them dry because Nelson's boots got very wet yesterday.
Indeed.
I think I might have to take them on the roof to give them, because it's nice and sunny here, but yes, it did rain horribly yesterday.
Also, there's still quite a lot of moisture in the air. Can you feel that?
Yes, I can.
I don't think that I turned on the the heated radiator in the bathroom. Otherwise, my towels wouldn't dry.
Yeah, I'm still with a duvet cover, but I had to put a blanket on over it last night.
Well, I have a 4.5 tog, a 10 tog, and sometimes I add them together and make them 15, or whatever that is.
It's really cold though, doesn't it, for that?
Sometimes, and I got my cashmere socks out a couple of nights this week as well. The 10-degree drop, I mean, last week we just moaned about it being far too hot, but down at sort of 22, a little bit chilly for me in the summer.
Yeah. Phoebe's constantly got a 10 tog on her bed.
Well, there you go. I'm with Phoebes a bit, yeah.
Skinny buggers. So what else has happened? Oh, Phoebe's been on the rampage this week, talking of whom. She's decided finally that the last bastion of this flat that needed sorting out, which was Irving's very huge bookshelf at the top of the stairs, needed sorting completely. And she didn't realise there was 2 layers of books on each shelf.
Oh, my word.
So she pulled them all off and she decided which ones were going to have books in. And then she chose the books entirely based on A, whether I wanted to keep some of mine, and B, whether the covers were nice colours and they matched each other. So we've now got one of those bookshelves that's got every other space has got an ornament in it, largely a cactus. And every other, the ones with books in, have got not crammed at all. I mean, really not crammed at all. I'm a little worried.
It's become not so much a bookshelf as a sort of work of art.
A work of art, yes. And she appropriated.
Yes.
She then needed somewhere to put the Hoover and muck it. The mop and bucket. Henceforth to be known as the mucket. She needed somewhere to put that. It was offending her that it was in the kitchen and the Hoover was on the top of the stairs. So she appropriated a cupboard from my bedroom. My bedroom is now looking extremely minimal.
Yes.
And but I have found spaces for things. I've had to reorganise my pasta stores under my bed.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Honestly, those pasta stores. I mean, it's January I bought them, I think.
I know, I remember in the panic. It was in the panic period. It was before you acclimated.
Yeah.
Interestingly, speaking as a bossy person, Phoebe's terrifying, isn't she?
She is quite terrifying, yes. And the hallway is now covered in books piled up against each wall that are being packed up in boxes, which has necessitated a lot of boxes. I'll tell you, you think she was moving out the amount of boxes that are here. And it's quite a job to navigate to go to the loo in the middle of the night without bringing it all crashing down around.
Is Irving required to collect the boxes of books, or are they going straight to the bookshop?
No, he is a hoarder, as you know, so he can't bear the thought of them going straight to the charity shop. He's coming to get them, take them up to Joe's and sort them out from there.
Okay.
Which I think Joe's not going to be very happy about.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I'm so pleased I'm not with Irving and he with me, I'm sure. But the thought of the chap you're with bringing home boxes and boxes of stuff to sort out later is...
Yeah, but it gives him stuffing to do, doesn't it? Because she's still...
No, he's not short of things to do. He's always playing tennis and going cycling around the lakes.
Yes, that's true. Yes, I know. And he does work from home. We mustn't malign him. But Joe...
Don't we all now?
No, I'm quite friendly with him.
No, sorry. Doesn't he work from home? Yes. Doesn't everybody work from home now?
Yes, but he actually has to achieve targets and things, not like the rest of us who just muck about. Of course, I was up at 8 this morning to greet my New Zealand
because it's
client.
Thursday.
Yeah. I have the 2 calls and I have to get showered in between them. I didn't make it this morning because I had something to do. And just popped into the shower just before our call, Judith, so I am spruced up especially for you.
Okay, and speaking of the mucket, I think actually my cleaner may have gone home leaving the mucket in my ensuite, which means I'll have to bring it back to the cupboard behind my chair later this afternoon.
It's not on really, is it?
No, it's not. No, but he was nice, and he's made the place smell lovely, and I will have him again next time.
Was he a gentleman from overseas extraction?
He was, but he came on a moped from Battersea and didn't complain about it.
Well, that's very good, isn't it?
Yeah. And
was it through an agency?
It was, but to Marge, I had to book one off because obviously I'm only temporary here, but 2 off I don't think counts as regular.
For the dear listeners, what you may not know about us is Judith used to have a whole posse of cleaning businesses, didn't you? And I had one briefly.
Yes, you didn't take to it well, did you?
I didn't know. It was far too much like being a proper grown up for me.
Yeah.
so that didn't last. What's fueled your fire then?
Superfan Brenda from the Caribbean.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so I'm amazed you had to ask me that question about will you be fishing out Brenda's email? How long have we known one another?
Yeah.
Who on earth did you think was going to... anyway, I'm going to read you the first part of it as my fuel to my fire. Actually, why don't you go first? Then we can roll straight into the...
Okay. Yeah, then that'll work, won't it?
Yeah.
I had a call this morning with one of my new clients who signed up around the time of the last challenge. He didn't sign up from the challenge, but I'm so excited about working with this chap, Judith. I can't tell you. I'd never heard of him, to be honest. But he is putting a podcast out, which I think is going to go to number 1 on iTunes immediately. The kind of people he's interviewing for his podcast are all household names in events organising, like the London Marathon, the entertainment industry. He's got someone who runs all the biggest festivals in the world, music festivals. And sports, he's interviewing several sports people who even I've heard of.
Is this the son of the high-heeled healer?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yes.
So Dodge, he should be known as.
Lovely.
But he's really thrown himself into. I mean, his business was obviously decimated by COVID, and he's thrown himself and his whole team into completely pivoting to an online presence, creating a course. There hasn't been a course before for event organisers, and he's working with the the education people to make sure it's properly accredited and everything. But he's got so many contacts, it's unreal, and he's quite an impressive looking bloke as well. So the artwork's looking fantastic. I mean, it's going to be a real a real nice one for my CV to say I coached him through the genesis of this whole thing he's doing, and I'm really looking forward to it enormously. He's done three interviews already on Zoom, and he hadn't used Zoom before, but he's taken to it like a duck to water. They will get people eventually to come down and into the studio, and they will also interview on hoof as they go about. But the Zoom thing is meaning they can get going a lot quicker.
And can you tell us yet what it's called, the podcast?
No, I probably shouldn't yet.
Okay.
It's a great name, and he's honestly, he's writing a book. He's doing it all at once. He's completely as barking as I am on getting everything done. It's fantastic and really a real joy to work with him, and I can't wait to be able to tell you all about it.
Lovely.
But that's that one end of the scale, and I'm equally happy to be working with the people who are just starting out and getting their first bits of content going. I enjoy both ends enormously.
Yes.
So that's got fuel by fire this week. What about you then?
Well, superfan Brenda from the Caribbean. So, gentle listener, Nicola and I had apropos of nothing at all, one of our best testimonials unsolicited ever. And I'm going to read you out the first part of that because she then also gives us the focus of the week. I mean, Brenda is good value.
He is good.
Brenda, do it again.
Yeah.
So what she said was, as a result of COVID-19, I am exiled off the Caribbean island where I live. Judith, I know you can relate. It took me until around episode 35-ish to figure out which island you were calling your own. During this extensive period, I was searching for business development podcasts and came across yours. After 2 weeks of then current episodes, I went back to the beginning, and I've been listening to several episodes a day.
Now that's what you call devoted.
Well, honestly, I mean, I don't think even I could listen to 3 hours a day. Anyway, I've shared your anger, your travels, your house movings, your book readings, and I've looked forward to the project updates as though I was holding you accountable for delivering as promised. I've laughed, I've cried, shed a tear, not a blubbering session like Nicola describes from time to time. Though British-born, my ears did not decipher the accented Cairncross was not Cairncross. I could go on, as I've immensely enjoyed and learnt so much over the last few weeks and months. Thank you for your dedication to Own It, the podcast. You may never know how many lives you've inspired and caused to change for the better. And she signs herself at the bottom as addicted to Own It, the podcast. What a total love is Brenda.
She's immersed and submerged herself in our world.
She has. What a love. Anyway, and then not one to just, blow smoke. She's given us today's challenge. So shall I move swiftly into focus of the week?
Yes, go for it.
Which I'm calling, and you may tell me differently later, entrepreneurial skills for young people. So Brenda goes on, why I'm writing today. I manage a non-profit organisation which helps youth develop entrepreneurial skills through experiential learning. In the past year, we have recognised that programme participants have limited beliefs in what they can accomplish, i.e. they attempt to develop products and services that already exist and whose target audience is a segment of the island's population which is only slightly bigger than that of St. Martin. This year, we are going to be focusing on digital business development, hoping that this will motivate participants to reach audiences far and wide. It is also stretching us as an organisation, which is both good and bad. The bad part is that our donors are deferring contributions to 2021 and beyond. On the positive side, it's causing us to focus on sustainable finance mechanisms that serve both as a revenue stream and a source of job creation. For those reasons and more, your conversations around digital nomads and virtual assistants have been of great interest. Can either or both of you share your thoughts on what factors we need to incorporate to underpin our success on both fronts, given the circumstances described above? Any assistance you can provide would be greatly appreciated, and I haven't bothered to do any homework at all on this because I know you have it completely in hand.
I have given this a lot of thought.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And I've even made some notes, so brace yourself. How would I go about this? I asked a couple of questions of Brenda. How what sort of age are we talking about? And luckily we're not talking about 7-year-olds, because that would be a bit more challenging. We're talking about sort of mid to late teens. And also they've got a second group going who are adults who aren't at school, but who are under 35. Again, great kind of group of people to work with. And so, Judith, if I run through what I would do, and perhaps if you've got anything to chip in or add, you could do that as well, because you'll enhance any idea, I'm sure.
I'll give it my best shot.
Yeah. So what I would do is I would familiarise myself with the wealth profile. I always start with this because I do really believe it gives you a really good insight into what someone's natural predilections are, and I think you can't fight those. And I know we have lots of jokings about star, creator, mechanic kind of things, but I do believe that if you had it would be a really good fun group thing to do as well, to outline the different parts. Are you a trader? Are you a supporter? Do you like people? Are you a star? Do you like sort of standing up the front? Are you a creator? Are you constantly drawing or scribbling or writing or whatever? Are you a mechanic? Are you always taking things apart to find out how they work? Do you always want to know how things work? Are you a Lord accumulator? Do you like to accumulate things? And I think that they could all probably, especially if they did 360-degree feedback kind of exercises, they could probably all align themselves to one specific profile. And I think,
and also I'm thinking they could work in teams then.
Yes, absolutely. Well, funny you should say that, Judith, because that's the next step.
Okay.
So once you've all been allocated to in fact, they could probably even get Roger Hamilton on talking by Zoom to the.
They certainly could, and you might give them a bunch of profiles, because that's not a cheap thing. Your first point.
I know. Yeah. And I was suggesting perhaps that perhaps the teacher did that, her own profile, and
then she'd know. Yeah.
So once profiled but not pigeonholed, you then would move on to the E-Myth principles, which is where you talk about the whole thing about being a visionary, a manager, or an engineer. And then again, you would then start to organise into work groups according to that. So each group of 3 or 6, depending on how many of them there are, or 9 even, you could have, the person who's the dreamer, the blue sky thinker, the big picture thinker, and the person who's a manager, who's always the one who organises things and helps out, who's the prefect, And then the engineer is the person who always tinkers about and takes things apart and makes sure that there's air in the tyres, etc. So now you've got your personality groups and your work groups. Then all you need to do, sounds simple, doesn't it? Simple, but not easy, remember, is to think about this. When you're selling things online, you're only ever selling 2 things. You're selling your products and services or other people's products and services. And to sell your products online, you have to either create digital products or you have to source products from overseas, from somewhere like Alibaba, for example. If you're selling other people's products or services, you're going to become an affiliate, and you would go and you would look at things like cj.com to source actual physical products, amazon.com, although the commission on that is absolutely terrible, but you never know. And things like ClickBank, which was a cesspit at one point of horrible products, but they've really brought their act into the 2020 now. They're really getting much better. So is it going to be your products and services, or is it going to be other people's products and services? If it's going to be your products and services, then what you need to do is find something that's unique to your area, unique to your island. Lots of people have had fantastic success with selling things like Filipino jewelry on Etsy and stuff like that. So these are what you're doing now is you're really narrowing it down. Yours or someone else's? Is it going to be physical products and services, or is it going to be services like, are you going to offer things like VA services? If you've got some copywriting services, writing for websites, writing emails and things like that. So you'd get your best students on that. And perhaps you could create a company for the school, and then you would go through the whole E-Myth thing about who's going to be the managing director, who's going to be the shareholders, who the managing director reports to, who's going to act as the finance director, the marketing director, the sales director. And then, so you're learning how a real business works by going through the E-Myth principles. And I would then further recommend the book Traction, which is a really useful book on how to organise things like, board meetings and management meetings and stuff, but it's not as dry as that. It's much better than that. And that's what I do. I would form a company or several companies within the school. Perhaps you'd have one for the kids of 17 odd, one for the people under 35. The shareholders would be anyone who actually works in the business, and that's all about being accountable and having feedback from your peers. And then I would literally start to think, are we going to recommend other people's products and services, or are we going to recommend our own? Are we going to start? And then I'd start creating content. I'd definitely get someone documenting the whole process from beginning to end, and start putting it onto YouTube and sharing it on social media, because I think a lot of people would be very inspired. And if you document the whole process, then you would be able to eventually create your own training course, which would help other teachers and other non-profits do this globally. How's that sound?
I think it sounds excellent. I think many schools I've heard of do that thing that you recommended about having a company.
Yeah, do they?
Yes, they do. I mean, in the kind of business, I don't know what you call it, where they learn business skills.
Business studies.
Yes, business studies. That's it. That's what they do.
Yeah.
And actually, what I'd probably do, you can have one company, and I'd probably give everybody a share so they feel invested, a bit like John Lewis.
Yeah.
I'd have two departments within the same company, one for those involved in selling other people's, and one for those selling ours.
Yes.
If it works out like that. But actually, I think when Brenda was talking about they've got some limited beliefs and they only want to sell something that already exists, it's quite hard to sell something that's new. And so actually I would probably sell something that already exists. And I love the idea of you unique to your island. And I know which island it is, but I'm not allowed to say.
Okay. And I'm sure there's going to be unique folk art. And
I bet there is. I bet there is. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now they'd have shipping costs then, wouldn't they? Or are you thinking, what are you thinking? Ultimately drop shipping, but...
Yeah. Well, the thing is, Amazon take care of all of that.
Do they?
If you become an Amazon seller, and I could introduce them to Neil, who I'm sure would give it time.
I think that would be brilliant. I think Neil would be great for this.
Because he's the Amazon king, basically.
Yes,
and
yes.
Then there's Pete, who does gamification, and he could talk to them about how to gamify things so that they're all motivated and they all win badges and do all the things that motivate people. And then there's Roger with his wealth profiles. So many. Daniel Priestley, I'm sure, would give an hour of his time. There are so many people we could get onto this.
Yeah.
That we could introduce Brenda to, and I think that hearing from people all around the world who make money in so many different ways. Michael Stevenson, who's NLP and hypnotherapy empire. There's the guys from Mind Movies. There's just so many people who would give an hour of their time to speak to these people on Zoom. And what you're doing there is you're accumulating content for your own training course and your own.
Do you know what you've said? You've said almost exactly what you said about Dodge's podcast. You've said pivot to entirely online, which is what Brenda realizes she's got to do. Make a course that's accredited so you can teach other people how to do this, and write the story of doing it.
Yeah, document yourself, which is building up the following as you go.
Yes.
And attracting clients for your training course and customers for your product when you
Yes.
it. I mean, I know that all sounds really simple, and it's not going to be easy, but it is quite simple.
It's certainly doable as long as they put one foot in front of the other.
Yes, don't get overwhelmed by it. There is a step-by-step process here, and I could probably at a push write it out in, like 10 steps. This is what you do first. But I think also they'll be exposing themselves to perhaps 10 really fantastic books. There'll be the book about traction, which is how to actually run a company. There'll be the E-Myth books. There'll be the Rich Profit First books by Mike McCallow. I can never say his name. So, with 10 books, they'll probably have like an MA in business.
And I might go for 10 books and 10 experts. If you could get those chaps you were talking about to give them an hour on Zoom. And actually what I would do with the books is I wouldn't get all of the students to read all of the books. I'd, have like mini book clubs, and then they can teach each other what they learn from the books.
Yes. And, you're going to have students who are really into the money and the numbers and all that stuff. And they can learn simple bookkeeping and spreadsheets and things. Yeah. I mean, it's just, the thing is, when she said experiential learning, my brain just went on fire, because I just believe that is the best way to learn, is to actually do something. Yes. And do something you're interested in as well.
Yes.
And your idea about how everyone having a share each is great, because then if somebody doesn't want to do it anymore, there's no big deal. They can just sell their share to the next person, can't they?
Yes. Yeah. Or drop out and the share goes back to the company to be reassigned to somebody else that comes in.
Yeah. And it will teach them all how to cooperate and how to work within a environment. And I promise you, Brenda, by the end of this, they'll end up so employable, you'll have trouble hanging on to them. I really think you will. Yeah. Exciting project, and so worthwhile.
Yes.
I had a lot of trouble holding back from this one.
Interestingly, when she says we're going to be focusing on digital business development, hoping that this will motivate participants to reach audiences far and wide. Well, YouTube will help them reach audiences far and wide.
Absolutely. And the kids will be learning video editing skills. They'll be learning social media skills. And I can't think of anything. I mean, what a project. It'll just be absolutely brilliant.
I wonder how many kids and young adults there are.
I'm not sure. I'm getting the impression there are sort of, she might have told me in one of the emails.
I think there's enough to do all of these jobs between them, because I'm glad I'm not doing all this by myself, aren't you?
Yeah, I seem to recall there was 50 to 70, perhaps even as many as 100.
Okay, cool.
So there are plenty of people. Plenty of bodies to make.
So what are we recommending? Get stuck in.
Yeah, absolutely. Get started. And if you want Brenda, I can outline literally step by step what you need to do and which books you need to get your hands on.
I think that might be useful, and a list of experts and how to contact them.
Yeah.
And if they can use your name.
Absolutely. I would be happy for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously I'd love to get involved in some way.
What fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. It's like Pencils of Promise, but at the very beginning.
Yes.
Nice, very nice. Cheered me up enormously thinking.
So, all right for me to call it entrepreneurial skills for young people? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, cool.
Sums it up nicely.
Yeah. I resisted the temptation to call it entrepreneurial skills for youth.
Young people is much less patronising. Right, what's your word of the week then?
Truth, it's still my crusade, and I'm not cutting my protest hair until we're told the COVID truth.
Yeah, lots of people coming out of the woodwork now, aren't there?
I've had enough.
Yeah.
Everybody's had enough, I think, haven't they?
Yes, there was all sorts of people been standing up and being counted this week. It's quite fun.
Did you see the marvellous movie called Plandemic?
I have seen it, yes. I didn't.
There's a latest version.
Yes,
with a marvellous expert in it. The chap oh God, I thought he was great.
I watched it. I was a little horrified by the mosquito idea, but there you go.
Yeah. And what's your word?
It's investments, because that's what I've been largely thinking about this
focusing
week.
On.
Brenda. Yeah. Brenda and her team of merry entrepreneurs.
Well, her kids. Yes, I hope they are. I was going to say, I hope they are a team. And I wonder whether Brenda has a team around her to support her in that as well.
Yes, she'll need it. That's for sure. Project updates then.
Well, no, because yesterday is the day I normally do my Jordan homework for you. And it turned out to be a surprisingly complex day when I was expecting a cleaner who didn't turn up and had to be rescheduled this morning, and I also had a visit from Dan from Virgin with a view to installing fibre. And he and his mate came, and there was a lot of clambering over roofs and inspecting the neighbours' house. Actually, basically what happened yesterday was, as lots of my clients say all the time, and I know this happens, I ended up at the behest of others, not in charge of my own day, and also slightly hypnotized by the big rain. And as you messaged me about it, a lot of important intel to study as well. So Wednesday completely got away from me in a good way, I think. But Jordan wasn't top of my list yesterday.
No, Jordan was relegated.
Bless him. Yeah, I've only got 2 to go, I think. So what about your project update?
Well, I have recorded my first podcast episode with Pete.
With Pete?
Yes, Pete, my poker mate.
Has it gone out?
It hasn't gone out. No, we're accumulating episodes, but I can reveal. Now, I did fight this because I wasn't that keen on the idea. His idea was to call it Poke It. So
I don't think that's quite nice, because it explains how you started.
Well, it does. It's about poking ideas, poking bits of software, poking people to find out what they can tell us. And he says that's how you and I learn. We just poke things and see what happens.
Yeah. And how did is there a strapline or anything yet?
Yes. Poke It, how businesses work.
Yes, that's good.
He's quite terse, Pete. I quite like that.
I like it a lot. I think it's funny too.
Yeah, I was a little bit unsure about that, but then I found, in fact, he found a fabulous picture, because the first picture I found didn't quite fit, and I was still a bit unsure. But then he found a fabulous picture of a bloke poking a computer screen, so it's perfect, and it's nice and dark and moody and rock and roll. So,
how did you feel the first session went?
Well, we're doing it by video, so we use some software. He's very, like you're always a bit worried when you start a project with someone else if you're going to be the one carrying the energy and making it happen. Never felt like that with you. We've always been totally, joint venture-y. But and Pete's really stepping up. He found the picture, he thought of the name. We tried a couple of bits of software that weren't really working with, because we want to do each episode live, at least onto YouTube, and then edit down for the audio. So he found some software that we can use so that I could concentrate just on, what did I have to concentrate on? I don't know if I did, actually, because I'll be doing the editing. So I think
What's the software called, Nicola?
I've got no idea. It's something where it's like a conference software, so it works a bit like Zoom, but then you can the participants can all go off into separate rooms and network separately, and then come back into the main area.
Okay.
Very complicated, but it worked really well, and he ran it, and so I didn't have to think about that bit, which was nice. And he sent me the video over afterwards, so I'm going to edit the video, edit the audio. I've given him a list of royalty-free music to plough through and see what he likes. He liked the first one, so he's obviously not very musically inclined. So it's all quite good. We're just going to get together once a week, and then when we've got about 5, we'll launch, and I'll let you all know. But it's going to be a sort of blokey vibe, really, although he did turn out to be quite emotionally intelligent when we did the first one. So that was, and I play poker with him every week, and we have a good chat. So I think it's going to be all right, Judith. So we're on to who or what's impressed now.
Yeah. Have you got something?
I have. I've got a film which surprised me how much I enjoyed it, which is called Project Power, with the very impressive Jamie Foxx in it. And it's also got a little girl in it who is a rapper. It's all set slightly in the future, where people take this drug that gives them 5 minutes of power, and you don't know what power you're going to get when you take the drug. It's highly addictive, but some people just explode, and some people have amazing powers. And I was really quite impressed with how thoughtful it was, rather than just being a gung-ho action movie. So I enjoyed that enormously. And it's on Netflix, by the way. And then I also listened to a really interesting episode of Making Sense podcast with Sam Harris. He's someone who thinks quite deep. I'm listening to a lot of thoughtful podcasts recently. I don't know why. The Weinstein boys, Eric and Brett, and Sam Harris. And Sam Harris invited this girl on woman called Catherine Page Harden, with whom he'd had rather a nasty Twitter spat. And somebody had reached out to both of them and said, look, you're misunderstanding each other. Why don't you talk? And someone came in to referee, although they shall remain nameless, but they were there to adjudicate, it was called. And it was a really interesting conversation of two people who felt very misaligned and maligned by each other, and they really got to a good place at the end. So it was an interesting thing to listen to, as well as I was interested in the topic, which was all about behavioural genetics. Yes, this is how I spend my fun times nowadays.
Well, actually, I think something I'm about to say explains that to a certain extent, which is often in this section, rather apologetically, we've talked about television programs, that I've completely stopped watching television, so I've got nothing to recommend since the short series about Murdoch. And when my nephew visited over the weekend, I asked for recommendations, and he said, have you seen the program about Murdoch? So obviously, it doesn't matter whether you're 32 or 65, there's nothing on the telly, basically. Yeah. But the one thing that has impressed me this week, and unfortunately I've thrown it out, and the dustbin men have taken it away, but the lady of the house here gets a copy of The Week. Do you know The Week?
No.
It's a weekly magazine. You can get it digitally if you want, which is a sort of roundup of the news in sort of short form. Yeah. So the first 3 stories are the most three important stories of the week. Then I read it in the tabloid, so it must be true. Then there's the business news, stocks and shares, entertainment, what was on Desert Island Discs, what happened in the Archers. There's just like you could read the week's news in an hour less. Oh, okay. And our twins made it in there because they've gone absolutely global. They've been mentioned in The Independent, the Chicago Tribune, the LA Times, the Daily Mail, and in this business column in The Week as a business phenomenon. So, and they didn't call them, there was a picture of them and they called them twins, but they didn't mention the new trend. They didn't give the name of their YouTube channel or anything. But if they're in the business column, presumably they're monetizing their channel well.
Oh, well, yes. Now, this is really interesting because they're reviewing other people's music.
Yes.
They're not able to monetize those videos. But what they're doing now, because they've only just gone off to college, I think, and they've done all this before they went to college, they've actually got Patreon accounts on the go.
Yes, so they have. Yes.
And they've also got merch. And if you watch them, you see they always, the brother, not the one on the left, the one on the right. He always,
the Karma one. The Karma one with the nice hair. I like him.
Yeah, he's great. And also, so with Patreon, I am actually a patron of theirs, funny enough, and you get to suggest your suggestions get
brilliant
file quicker.
Yeah, brilliant. I tell you what I really like. I read when I Googled to find out what was said about them in the week. It didn't come up, but I found all these other articles. But what was really interesting is their responses to Jolene and to Phil Collins have caused those 2 songs to go to the top of the charts or the top of the download charts again.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, what it's doing for me is it's bringing up all sorts of songs I'd forgotten about completely.
Yeah,
and
I know.
When you know that a song is brilliant and that they're going to listen to it.
I know. That bit in the middle of Phil Collins, which we're all waiting for them to hear. They don't know what's coming and we all do. That was fantastic.
And the comments are just as funny as well, aren't
they?
Yeah.
And I feel quite proud of that because we spotted them first.
Well, you did, Judith. You spotted it well.
I did. But that's my thing, to spot things first. It's a bit of a burden, to be honest, Nicola.
Yes, I'm sure it is. And finally, the other thing they're doing now is they're branching out into a daily vlog, and of course that won't be copyright limited, so they will be able to monetize those other things that they're doing.
Brilliant. And it's such a simple idea. And also the other thing, when you go onto YouTube now, you see other people copying their idea.
Yes. Well, I mean, I've got to say, I even thought about doing it myself, just playing all my favourite tunes through my life. Because,
it's Desert Island Discs.
Yeah, but then I couldn't work out the technology. But I think what they're actually doing is, I think they're actually listening to it in their headphones and reacting. And then I think they superimpose that little viewing thing of the...
Maybe they have 2 screens.
Yeah, well, it's more about the audio.
But it's exactly chimed to the video. If you were doing it separately, you'd have a lag.
No. What you do is, I've worked out how to do it now anyway. But they're not doing it as it appears because that's physically impossible. So, but anyway, that wouldn't interest anyone except.
Anyway, rock and roll. A couple of teenagers, haven't they done well? And couldn't we be prouder?
Twins, the new trend. Everybody loves them.
They do.
Around the world are loving them.
They do. And what's really interesting is that everybody likes their own favourite type of music with them. Yes. So you have different tastes to me, and somebody else I saw has different tastes. It's all,
and they never go, "Oh, that's rubbish," do they? Even
no, they're very respectful. Yeah. I mean, there was one I saw them watch where they were completely nonplussed. They weren't that impressed by opera.
Yeah, no, but they
Placido Domingo singing Nessun Dorma. They weren't that, the calmer one sat sort of calm all the way through that. But the younger one, I think, or the littler one, he cried, I think, in that.
Yeah, and was it the girl from Eastern Europe that they didn't really get? Yeah, that was quite funny.
I don't know the girl from Eastern Europe. Who's she?
She's a little blonde girl doing some sort of trash rap kind of thing. It's difficult to explain, but it had no soul, and I think they found that a bit difficult. Because
I don't watch it as often as you, but when I go on YouTube to look at other things, it offers it to me up the right-hand side margin, and that's quite tempting sometimes.
I use it as a treat. If I make myself do something I don't want to do, then I want to go.
I've remembered things like how much I used to think the Carpenters were just excellent, in 1968 or something.
They like Fleetwood Mac quite a lot. They like things with harmonies a lot, don't they?
They just like anybody who can sing and perform well. They like good music.
The best ones is when you've got the old crooners from the 50s and 60s, and they're old white guys in.
I know.
And they come out with these amazing soul voices.
Oh, I think they're very impressed by that, and who wouldn't be? And that's the thing, isn't it? Is that like. This is the same thing for every walk of life, which is be prepared to be amazed.
Yeah. And who knew that we could get so enthusiastic?
Well, we've certainly got many column inches out of them.
Yeah, we have. They've been good value as well as Brenda.
They have, yes.
There you go, Brenda. You're in with the twins, the new trend.
You are, Brenda.
Great stuff. That's been great fun.
All right.
Look forward to next week.
Yeah, see you next week, doll. Okay, bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.